I would agree that somewhere deep inside a narcissist, they are deeply ashamed of themselves. How they came to be is going to be different for every single narcissist that's out there. Narcissists, generally speaking, have a lack of sense of self, a lack of empathy, and they're usually trying to fill that void through their victims. Now, usually someone who has narcissistic personality disorder probably was really emotionally abused or neglected in their childhood as well. This is where I get a lot of comments where people are like, yeah, but narcissists are victims too. Yeah, probably. But what's your point? Everybody has different levels of dysfunction and things like that that they were raised with. And it doesn't mean that when we all become adults, that's our excuse to emotionally harm other people. At some point, you do have to take accountability for your behaviors and your actions and how you affect others around you. So very frequently, narcissism is formed in childhood. And there are several different reasons why that might be the case. They could have also had a narcissistic parent. They could have had emotionally absent, very neglectful parents. They could have also been overly spoiled as well. Basically, a parent that gives them anything and everything, have never had anyone say no to them, have people that are constantly praising them. It's usually going to be one of those two things. But of course, there are also people that just are naturally predisposed based on biology to become a narcissist. But usually it's formed in early childhood because of those kinds of situations. And while it's helpful to know how narcissists are generally formed, and therefore that is likely the backstory of the person who abused you, ultimately, again, that's not a reason to stay. And I think one important thing to say here as well is that some people can grow up in the same environment that a narcissist grew up in and not become narcissists themselves. For instance, I have a borderline mother who has narcissistic traits, and I have a codependent father. And my older brother has definitely developed into a narcissist, and I developed into a people pleaser. It's usually you're going to develop into one of those two things if you grow up in that kind of an environment. Researchers still don't really know why different children or different personalities, why they go in one direction versus the other. There is a lot of research that's missing on this topic of narcissistic personality disorder. And some people could grow up just to have some traits, but not have the full-blown personality disorder, and obviously some have the disorder itself. But if someone truly has the personality disorder beyond just the traits, it is a lifelong problem that they're going to have to deal with, because it actually is now the way in which they think. It's the way in which they think is the proper way to behave. You can, through therapy, if you are vulnerable and are confronting this head on, you can try to figure out, how do I make sure to not outwardly have my behavior negatively affect and harm other people? But the way of thinking is solidified.